everyone, I'm Brian, and you are watching The Brian Darling Show. Today, we're going to inspire and inform. And all this stuff that's going on with marriage equality, I really thought I should bring on our family law expert, Paula Teske. Hey there, Paula.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. Happy New Year. How are you?
Happy New Year to you. It's going to be a great 2014.
Boy, the LGBT Marriage Equality movement is a freight train that is roaring across the country. We're
Absolutely.
up to, how many is it, 19 states now?
It's 17 and a half, and the half is Utah, 1,300 couples married before there was a stay. So it's 17 and a half right now, plus the District of Columbia, plus several American Indian tribes, and of course there are all these other nations that have same-sex marriage too. The freight train is on its way, there's no question.
We've both actually been very active in different ways in this movement for many, many, many years. But I don't understand legally if the Supreme Court overturns the Defense of Marriage Act and federally recognizes same-sex marriages across the country. How, if it's constitutional that way, how can an individual state turn around and say that it's unconstitutional? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, it's two different systems. It's the federal system and then the state system. And in the federal system, DOMA is now gone. Defense of Marriage Act is now gone, which is a statute that was passed by the U.S. Congress. And that was declared, Section 3 of that statute was declared unconstitutional. And therefore, for all federal employees, federal programs, and so forth, anything federal, marriage equality has to prevail throughout. You won't have discrimination in federal programs anymore. But that doesn't impact directly the states. The DOMA case didn't impact directly the states, and yet, of course, it did, because when you have this recognition across state lines of the federal benefits, then you will have people claiming, well, why shouldn't a state recognize those same benefits and rights and obligations? And indeed, that's what we're seeing happen now.
So that's where all those state lawsuits are coming up. We're having Edie Windsors in all these individual states, and they're going in and saying, okay, well, the feds are recognizing us, now we're suing for our state to recognize us. Is that sort of how it's working?
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, we have Kentucky. Two men who are legally married in Canada are seeking recognition of their marriage in Kentucky. That's almost like Windsor, only it's at the state level, not the federal level. And that case is ongoing right now. And we have Oklahoma, you mentioned that. In January of this year, a federal judge determined voters can't ban same-sex marriage, although that stayed. Then we've got Arizona right next to us in California. January of this year, 4 same-sex couples have filed a class action in federal court seeking to find the marriage ban there unconstitutional. 2 of those couples were legally married here in California, and 2 have adopted children through Arizona's foster care system. So how can Arizona claim that these marriages that were legal in other states when they were entered should not be recognized here in Arizona? Those are 3 cases. Oregon, you know, and again, next to us here in California, since October of last year, Oregon must recognize same-sex marriages from out of state, but they aren't allowing gay marriages there. How crazy is that?
You know, the opposition to all of this stuff, I mean, I've heard everything from mankind is going to go extinct, all this bestiality and pedophile stuff. They just try to attach all this just crazy stuff to gay people.
In the 60s or 70s, forgive me for not knowing exactly when, we had the same arguments when we had different races marrying. Don't forget that a black could not marry a white in most of the states until I think it was 1967.
Yeah.
Now we have a Supreme Court justice who is black, who's married to a white woman, but it was banned in many, many states until 1967. And the same arguments, bestiality and the ruination of the races and so forth, all of those arguments were used then too, to prevent, but ultimately clear minds prevailed.
Well, isn't that ironic? Hi, Justice Thomas. Happy New Year. All these terrible things that these people are saying. Well, guess what? It's not so terrible in 19 states. I don't see any of these things happening. I don't see anybody trying to marry their prize cow or, all these crazy things. The Pope, the new Pope, God bless the Pope. I was very encouraged by some of his commentary recently on this topic, and apparently he seems to kind of be on board, and his message seems to be love everybody.
Yes. I am not an expert on the Catholic Church, but he certainly does seem to have more of an approach that Jesus had, which is love everyone and be kind to those of the least ability, and he seems to be concerned that we are getting to be a corporate world, and corporations and very rich people are controlling things, and he seems to be trying to bring back more recognition of the rights of the common people, and for that I give him a lot of credit.
I do too. I was very encouraged. Now I'm going to stick with the constitutionalists here, and the libertarians, and just go on liberty and justice for all. And my definition of all is you and I and Sarah Palin and President Obama and Bill O'Reilly and everyone. That makes up all.
Yes, absolutely.
To me, that's my definition. So let's get down to the local level now. We've got all these rights in front of us. We both live in California. This is a hypothetical here. I've been with my boyfriend for a number of years, and we're thinking, okay, California, we now have the right to marry.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have been saying, and I've been taking a little bit of flack for this, actually, I am a big proponent of plan ahead. Get your ducks in a row. We've fought very hard for all of these rights, and I think it's very important for the LGBT community to use these rights responsibly. Where there is gay marriage, inevitably there will be gay divorce as well. And I don't want to see anybody go through that. Now, Paula, you're a certified family law specialist.
Yes.
So what that means in English, darlings, is before you get married, Paula can help you get your ducks in a row legally.
Right.
And if you don't do this advanced planning, she can handle your divorce on the other end as well.
And you can assist with the identification and the valuation of assets. As an accountant, keep books and records, which most people are not good at. They just aren't good at maintaining the proper records. And for anyone considering entering into a marriage, whether gay or straight, you must consider the possibility that the assets that you have before going into the marriage, or the debts that you have going into the marriage, may well wind up being the other person's, or at least half being the other person's assets or debts. And it's our job as professionals, as attorneys, as financial advisors, to advise our clients what are the benefits, but what are the risks, and so that you have your eyes open. And there is nothing worse than someone saying, when they're about to get a divorce, saying, I only wish I knew then what I know now.
Exactly. My brain thinks in numbers.
Yes.
I am all about the numbers. I am a long-term planner. Now, when you marry somebody, well, up until, all these rights that we've gotten, you date, you maybe move in together, okay, fine, it doesn't work out, you say goodbye, you pack your bag, you change the locks, and you're done.
Yes.
Well, it doesn't work that way when you're actually married. What my suggestion to everyone is talk about this stuff now, when you're in that lovey-dovey stage and you just can't get enough of each other. Get a bottle of wine, put yourself in a room, lay it all out on the table. How do you counsel your clients that way?
I think there is a self-education process, and then jointly with your intended partner or spouse. The self-education part should come first. In California, this is a community property state. So there are two rights and obligations that attach immediately upon marriage. You don't have to do anything. They automatically attach. One is the community property law, and what that is when you buy something or your earnings during marriage, that's community property. You might think it shouldn't be, but under law, it automatically becomes community property. The other aspect is spousal support. Once you marry, you are obligated to support the other spouse. So let's say that you have this $1 million earner and the $50,000 earner. They will live at a lifestyle more like the $1 million earner. They won't be down at the $50,000 earner. That establishes a marital standard of living. So if they divorce later on, the person who earns greater amount of money is going to have to substantially pay spousal support to the lower wage earner, because he won't be able, or she won't be able, to pay for that kind of standard of living on her own or his own. So those are rights and obligations that really need to be fully understood before you enter into marriage. And how do you deal with those two rights? You and I both know that a prenuptial agreement can literally change those two rights. They can totally negate those two rights. The prenuptial agreement has to be written properly, but it can state very clearly that whatever I bring into the relationship, whatever property, it's mine. And whatever property I acquire during the marriage and whatever I earn during the marriage, it's mine, and it's not community. You can do that.
A lot of people, I think, are scared of that word prenuptial agreement. It maybe just has a bad stigma on it for some celebrity reason or something. The way that I describe it is what you're actually doing is you are memorializing your intentions. You're getting on the same page. I make this kind of money, you make that kind of money. I own the home, so let's decide how you're going to contribute into this household. Are we going to cut everything 50-50? Are we going to pay all of our own bills and only pay the joint expenses together? All of that stuff is what goes in this prenuptial agreement. So God forbid, if it doesn't work out, you pull out the paperwork, you know what's going to happen. It's not going to be pleasant when you split up, but you don't have to fight. I want the dog. I want that piece of, china. That's mine.
Yes.
You're not going to have any of that on the back end.
And it's amazing how people can get fixated on the forks and the knives and the spoons. That's kind of a term of art that we use in this business of divorce when divorcing spouses get fixated on something that you could probably replace for a very small amount of money. They'd rather spend $10,000, $20,000 just litigating the forks, the knives, and the spoons, rather than going out and buying new.
Let me tell you this from a financial aspect, darlings. Consulting with a good accountant, how many times have I said this? There are two or three things that everybody needs to do. And in the context of same-sex marriage, you need a good attorney and a good accountant.
Yes.
First and
That's,
foremost, a consultation up front with Paula, I'm going to venture to say, is going to be a lot less expensive than hiring her on the back end when you're trying to keep the other half of your house that you're going to have to be paying to your soon-to-be ex.
there's no question. In this day and age, it can easily be several $100,000s in attorney and costs to divorce. Folks can avoid that with a very well-written prenuptial agreement that lays out what the parties want. The whole theory behind community property law is that the spouses will contribute a different type of thing to the marriage. Like the stay-at-home spouse, her or his contribution is making sure that the household runs properly and is supportive to both of them. Whereas the wage earner, the one that goes out of the house, that may be his or her contribution, the money being brought in. But under community property law, they are considered to be equal contributions to the whole. Okay, now that's the background. That's the basis for community property law. So we have to look at what are the goals and the interests and the needs of the particular spouses before they get into the marriage.
So that's the conversation that you have with your clients.
Yes.
Now they come over to me. There's different ways that you can configure how you run the household financially also. Now,
Sure.
in my profession, there's no emotion at all. Absolutely none. The numbers add up. It's black and white. There's no X's and Y's, and it is what it is. And that's really good for me because I don't have to take sides. This is all very sensitive. You probably have to deal with quite a bit of emotion.
Yes.
I don't have to deal with that. I can take a look. If one person is making $100,000 and the other one is making $50,000, there's a few different ways you can do it. Some people, they just throw all their assets all into one pot and they just pay the bills, no matter how much either party makes in income. I'm not a big fan of that, but that's one thing. The other thing, which I think makes a lot of sense, is, especially in same-sex marriages, generally when same-sex couples are marrying, they tend to be older, maybe in their 40s or 50s. They may have a career, they may have assets of their own. What I've done for some of my same-sex couples is I open one account called master account.
Right.
Then each party has their own money. They contribute into that master account at a equal percentage level, not necessarily the same amount of dollars, but there's a calculation that we can do. So both parties are contributing percentage-wise equally into that account, and that's where the mortgage gets paid, that's where the bills get paid from. That makes it very equitable. So that way, the spouse that maybe is not earning the money or does not have the resources that the other one has, then they kind of don't feel like they're being taken care of, or then the spouse that does have the assets doesn't feel that resentment that they're, supporting someone. What do you think about that?
I think that's an excellent idea.
Because that way everybody's contributing, both parties are contributing,
Right.
and that guarantees that they both sort of have an equal financial investment in the relationship as well. One party doesn't feel like taken advantage of financially. And you know as well as I, Paula, what are the two main reasons why people break up?
Well, certainly money is
Money and
the
sex.
number one. And sex, yes.
So y'all have to call Dr. Ruth about the sex part. But Paula and I can help you out with the money. And all this stuff, these are the conversations that I highly recommend that couples contemplating marriage have before they go skipping down the aisle. I wish the best of happiness to everyone, but Paula, I'm sure you can concur, you and I both have seen so many messy, I work in the entertainment industry, so I've seen some of the craziest divorces you'd ever want to hear about, and I just don't want that to happen because a lot of these same-sex couples are our personal friends.
Absolutely.
Now, I don't want my
Yeah.
friends to get married and then have a contentious, nasty divorce. Then, where does that leave me? I don't want to have to pick one or the other.
Sure. So it's an exciting time. At the end of 2012, we only had 9 states recognizing marriage equality. At the end of 2013, we had 17 and a half. And we have all this litigation going on right now. And my prediction, if I can do that,
Yeah,
is
I was just going to ask.
there are going to be a number of states where there will be conflicting decisions. It will get back up to the U.S. Supreme Court, and then I think finally Justice Kennedy will have his chance to once and for all recognize marriage equality throughout the country. So that's my hope, and I would think that it may take a couple of years to get up there to the U.S. Supreme Court. I could be wrong. It may be this year, but I guess we'll see. But there's over 70, 80 cases that I'm aware of throughout the country that are challenging. And I just wanted to quote Justice Antonin Scalia when he opposed the DOMA decision by the U.S. Supreme Court. He said, quote, "You just opened the door, majority opinion of the court, for legal challenges really in any given state," end quote. And he was right. That's exactly what's happening.
Listen, I don't understand what goes on in straight relationships, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to spend millions and millions. I don't know how many millions of dollars came into the state of California, specifically from the state of Utah, ironically. There was a lot of money, and people, too. Thousands of people came from Utah and canvassed in California to get this whole Prop 8 thing passed. I would contend that that's not the smartest use of funds. If they would take those few $1 million and maybe spend them on maybe giving people some jobs, or fixing their roads, or all the other things that we're complaining about that we don't, put it into their healthcare system, maybe? Right. I don't know, just a thought. The LGBT demographic has the largest percentage of disposable income of any demographic. I love throwing out that little tidbit because, now that we have, especially Hawaii and California, we depend a lot on tourism in this state. And gay people spend a lot of money. So the California economy is benefiting greatly from the legalization of same-sex marriage. The hotel industry, the travel and tourism industry, and it's great in Hawaii because now, Paula, when our friends get married, they can invite us to the wedding and we can all go out to Hawaii and get a nice tan. How about that?
That would be fabulous. That would be fabulous. Don't forget, we have an administration right now that's very pro-marriage equality. And even though Utah, the U.S. Supreme Court, put a stay on that decision, immediately Eric Holder of the Justice Department announced that the federal government was going to recognize those 1,300 marriages. And a number of states, I believe it's including Maryland, has announced that they're going to recognize those marriages too. And there are 2 tribes in the state of Utah, Cheyenne and Arapaho tribes, that have same-sex marriage since 2013. And I just see the snowball rolling down the hill.
Oh, yeah.
And just getting bigger and bigger.
So, darlings, you can get a hold of Paula at teskelaw.com, and you can get a hold of me on briandarling.com. You can follow me on Twitter at Brian P. Darling. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you'll get an email every time we release a new show. So, Paula, thank you so much.
It has been a sincere pleasure.
We'll do these updates a lot because there's so much stuff going on, and it's such important information. So if anybody out there has any questions, call Paula, call me, get educated, and enjoy your marriage and enjoy your life together. And we love you very much. So thanks again, Paula.
Thank you very, very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks. And on that note, darlings, We've come to the end of Hitting the High Waves once again. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night. We will see you next time right here on The Brian Darling Show.